Bunch.
The Brady Bunch. We're the Brady Bunch again.
Yeah, wait till everybody starts saying good night, John boy.
Well, and all you elementary people, is it so hard not to just sit and make faces like our kids do?
I also think of Hollywood Squares.
Good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock, and I'd like to call our meeting to order. First on our agenda is asking for any adjustments to the agenda. Are there any adjustments or addendum this evening? So we'll move on to adopting the agenda. Is there a motion to do so? Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Jesperson. The agenda has been adopted, or has been, there has been a motion made to adopt the agenda. The motion has been seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those wishing to adopt the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Okay, the agenda has been adopted by a unanimous vote. We would like to move on to the highlight of the evening, which is the recognition of our district retirees. And first on my list is Mrs. Donna Bott, who is the Director of Transportation, who will be speaking about Mr. Paul Joy, a bus driver who will end his time with us at the end of the school year. Mrs. Bott.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize Paul Joy for his 9 years of hauling precious cargo for Goshen County School District. So of those 9 years, Paul drove a special needs bus. And many times Paul would come to me and tell me he had the best behaved bus in Goshen of all the district buses. And I must admit, you know, he probably was right. Paul's goal was to always make sure that his students started their day with a bright start. He had a big hello, warm, friendly smile to greet each of his drivers, and he always gave them that high five. And so I've always appreciated how Paul made every one of his students that rode his bus a special somebody. And I know that those students are really going to miss Paul, along with his families and everyone here at Transportation. So I hope Paul's listening, because on behalf of Goshen County School District, I want to wish Paul you the best on your retirement and your future endeavors.
Thank you, Mrs. Bott. We too want to echo your sentiments and thank him very much for making all of his passengers feel welcome and valued every day that they were with him. So please allow us to second your thoughts. Next on our list is retiring occupational therapy assistant Kathy Crow, who will be introduced and lauded by Special Ed Director Trina Nickel.
Good evening, everyone. So it's my pleasure and with sadness that I congratulate Kathy on her retirement. I reached out to the team in the district to get some kudos for her and some wishes. She's been with us 19 years. That's a long time. And just a couple of comments. She worked very closely with Brenda Sink. She was, that's who directed her work. And so Brenda's comment was that, and we've all observed this, that Kathy is so giving and loves the kids. She's always on the floor with them. She's clever, patient, and good at getting kids to complete their work. And she's just kind of a big kid herself. And she shared that they've lost things, they found them again in unusual places and laughed till they cried. And the years they've worked together have gone by quickly. And Brenda will miss her finishing her sentences for her, filling in the word when she can't think of it, and all the fun they had doing life together with the students. She is one special person, and she will be and already is missed. And then Miss Sarah Foster shared that she's always enjoyed working with Kathy. She first met her at Torrington Learning Center, and then they both switched over to the school district, and she's learned so many things from her, and she's an inspiration. And then Craig Shadwinkle, our adaptive PE teacher, shared that he didn't think Kathy realized this, but she took him under her wing and helped him figure out all the ins and outs of dealing with a new school district with 7 buildings and 3 different communities, and made him feel very welcome. She was a valuable asset, or she is a valuable asset to the district. And with her vast knowledge of occupational therapy and her love of teaching and helping special needs youth, she just makes it a very fun environment. Kathy's a very quiet person, and but she's always there helping, and she's always working in the summer, and we're just really going to miss her laugh, her smile. She's always smiling. And Kathy, we've just so much appreciated what you've done for the school district, and I wish you the best, and hopefully you have lots of time to enjoy grandkids. And I know she already volunteered to work summer. I don't know if she still wants to do that or not, but I hope so, because I'm hoping we get to the point I can give her a big hug.
Very true. Thank you, Mrs. Nichols. Miss Kathy, would you like to add any words to your goodbye farewell performance?
I would just like to say thank you to the district and everybody that I met and who helped me through. Brenda was a fun co-worker, and I have enjoyed every year working with the district. I really have appreciated it. Thank you.
We definitely appreciate you sharing your special gifts and your talents with everybody you worked with, and you're going to be sorely missed, but enjoy that retirement.
I will say.
Next, Mr. Corey Gilchrist will share some remarks about retiring teachers Becky Neiswanger and Gay Tucker.
Well, thank you guys for this opportunity. Man, have you guys seen the talent that's leaving the building and the district next year? Holy cow. Congratulations to you all, but I'm a little bit sad for us. I'm going to start off with Miss Tucker. In '97, she started out as a kindergarten teacher in Texas, and then she looped back around in the last 7 years. She's been teaching kindergarten at LFL and has done a fantastic job. Now, I would tease her if this was a private conversation about her mental stability doing that, but I think it's actually more of an indication of how fantastic a teacher is, and she has the perfect mentality for teaching kindergarten. They are her little ducklings. She wraps her arms around them. She's got the perfect mentality. She's our she's the rock. She doesn't change very much, no matter the circumstances, even with all this craziness, just embraces it. She's been a fantastic asset to Lingle, and we're gonna definitely miss her. We are going to be envious because the house is up for sale. She's going to jump in an RV and spend her time traveling. So I don't think, we'll get over missing her when she's sending us pictures and we're watching her on Facebook, but she will be missed. Miss Niswonger, first grade. She was the head teacher when I took over. So the nice thing about that was I always had somebody to go to with questions. And actually Miss Tucker was right there with her too. But when I'd go into Becky, I'd have an idea. I'd be like, hey, Becky, I got this great idea. And she'd be like, hey, yeah, that's awesome. Let's do it. And then I'd get oh, Corey, I don't know about that. And so she was the one that kept me out of trouble for a good portion of my early career as a principal. So I very much appreciate that. I had her send me a list of the things that she's done in the district and the committees she's been on. And we're just going to sum it up and say everything. She's literally been there, done that. At the district level. As far as future, I know grandbabies, I hear that one a lot. So I think she's looking forward to just being a grandma. I will greatly miss both you ladies.
It's hard to say goodbye to people who have been the pillars of your elementary community. And I was very blessed to be able to visit Mrs. Tucker's room this year, as she took a student teacher under her very capable wing. And I heard a lot of really excellent stuff about Mrs. Tucker's classroom. So Mrs. Tucker, if you'd like to share a few remarks with us, we'd be happy to listen.
I've been at LFL exactly 1/3 of my life,
Oh my God.
20 years. And out of 60, that's a pretty long time to be in one spot. And I've loved every year, every grade level from kinder to third, several principals, several superintendents, several different administrators, but every single year has been a blessing, and I thank you all.
And thank you for giving you so much of yourself to our students and our community. Mrs. Niswonger
My pleasure.
gave me the opportunity to have three very fine young people in my own classroom that she had parented and brought into the district. So I have a history with Mrs. Niswonger that's a little different than just seeing her in her teaching position. But I have heard so many wonderful things with her and been blessed to be able to work with her through the years on salary relations and other GCEA matters. And we, I echo Mr. Gilchrist by saying we're going to miss you. And we'd be happy to hear from you at this time.
Well, thank you so very much. My whole career has been first grade at LFL, so it's heart and soul for me. But thinking back to the people we've recognized so far, Mr. Joy used to come in and be Abraham Lincoln. His wife would be a cook at our school, and he would come in and be Abraham Lincoln at our school. I have a great memory with Kathy. I had a special needs child one year, and we decided we would just take on the whole class. She would come in, and whatever she needed to do with our one student, we just did with all of our students. And of course, Gay and I have been hooked at the hip, since the day she came. I think about Ted and Dodie and Cindy Golisano, who are yet to come. We raised our children together in the county. So just such great memories as a parent, as a teacher, as a staff member, for all the opportunities I've had and the things I've been able to do with the district. Corey, thank you so much for being the person you are and the mentor you are. I so appreciate that. And thank you all for the years that you've given me in Goshen County.
And thank you for sharing so much of yourself with your students and with your co-teachers and your administrators. You're going to be hugely missed, so stop in every once in a while.
Oh, I will. I've got those grandkids hanging out in Goshen County and my kids at Lingle still.
Excellent. They'll be glad to see you.
Thank you.
I'd like to turn next to Lincoln Elementary Principal Niana Sims, who is going to speak about two retirees from her building, Mrs. Dodie Kinney and Mrs. Cindy Golisano.
Thank you. Hopefully this will work out fine without the background noise because my computer just died and I ran real fast and got my husband's.
Oh, no.
I know. So it's my pleasure to talk about both Cindy and Dodie. I always tell them that I'm the person that I am professionally and personally because of both of them.
Mhm.
They have both contributed so much to the education of so many adults and children. Cindy, I did a little figuring and decided, if she had like 18 students each year, she had 636 students that she would have impacted throughout the time. That's just as a classroom teacher. There's so much more that she's done. She did summer school. She did, as a facilitator, she was in numerous classrooms. Definitely a true teacher of teachers. Cindy has taught kindergarten, second grade, fifth grade, and as I stated, a facilitator. Her leadership is above all and is going to be missed. She was 2001 Teacher of the Year for the state of Wyoming and has been an ambassador for education in the state. She has her national boards, her masters. She's been in leadership roles both locally and at the state and national level. She was part of in 2015, she was on the Wyoming statewide task force for assessment. She has done presentations and workshops at the local and state level. And what I love most about Cindy, and I'm going to truly, truly miss, is that she is a true champion of students. She wants them to be readers. She wants them to be thinkers. She wants them to be lovers of learning. And that's definite in what she has done and shown and throughout her whole 35 years in Goshen County. Dodie, see if I can do this without any tears. Dodie is just a friend and a co-worker. I am so blessed that the last couple of years I was able to work with her in the role that I have. Again, 41 years times 18 students a year is 738 students. And she looks or talks about our parents and she's like, yeah, I had them when they were in second grade. So she's got the generation going around and around. And I know that we're going to be able to see her in many roles throughout the community after she leaves Goshen as a teacher. Keep telling her she has to come back, and she's just a skip and a hop away from the school. So I told her I'd be coming and visiting her quite often. She said after school and weekends would be great. We'll do that. Dodie has taught kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade. And I found out today that she's even taught Title I after her son Benjamin was born. I did not know that. So that was something new for me. Dodie is a true designer of work. She has been, she believes in working on the work and designing lessons and units and things that are going to help kids be those thinkers. Definitely thinks of them more than just a test score. She takes these kids home, literally takes them home in her heart. She wears it on her sleeve. She you would ask anybody in the district that knows her. I know that the second grade team is going to miss her snacks during collegial, especially those all-day collegial times. We have not been able in the last 2 weeks to have a conversation without us both breaking down in tears. So I guess I probably should stop there, or else I'm gonna not be able to do it. I love them both and wish them well in everything that they do, because they truly are, as Corey said, we are losing the best of the best this year. So thank you to both of them. And thank you to all the others that are leaving as well.
Thank you, Mrs. Sims. I got to know Mrs. Golisano when my own children were at LFL. She was fortunate enough to not have either of them in her classroom, but I got to know her just in passing, and then got to know her better as her children became my students. And we worked again through GCA and through her work as a facilitator. And you're right, she is one of those folks who just brings something essential to the job every day. So Cindy, if you would like to share some remarks with us, we'd be glad to hear from you.
Well, as you heard, I spent my entire teaching career in Goshen County. And it's been an amazing journey. I started at Lincoln, and so I knew Dodie from the get-go. And then I went to Lingle, and I was there for 17 years. So I knew Becky and Gay really well. And it was a wonderful place to teach. And I still know so many of the families and so many of the students. I ended up back in, I was a facilitator for a while and got to know Niana very well. We presented together, we did things together. We were always collaborating on things and working on things. And through my years, I worked with Ted on many committees. And I even got to know Kathy really well because I even had her grandson this year in my class. So it's wonderful to teach in a small community because you do know everyone and you feel so close knit and you feel so connected to everyone. And I'm just appreciative. There's a lot of people out there that teach in a lot of districts that don't get the opportunities that I've had in this district, getting to go to conferences and meet people and talk to people and go to presenters and hear presenters. I've always said Goshen County is one of the best districts, and I still believe that. And I'm very, very sad to leave, but I'm excited because I'm gonna be hanging out with this guy, and we're gonna head south to warmer weather next winter, hopefully, depending on what this pandemic, how it pans out. So.
Oh, Cindy, we are really going to miss you. Thank you for giving us everything that you gave us through your career.
Thank you.
Mrs. Kinney, I did not get to know very well until I had her sons in my classroom, and then we have known each other through some community work in years past. But we were kind of hatching a plan where I would come in and listen to her students read at Lincoln Elementary before the plague hit. And so I'm sad that that didn't come to fruition. But Dodie, we'd like to hear some words from you, if you would be willing to share some thoughts.
I just feel amazingly lucky to have taught with the people that are here. It's been a joy and an honor to teach in Goshen County. We've had amazing learning opportunities. I feel like I've had so many opportunities to grow as a teacher. And when you teach in a small community, you have the wonderful opportunity to watch kids grow. And since I'm now teaching kids of kids that I had in class, it's just so wonderful to see them grow up and be the parents that they are and the citizens they are. So I feel like Ted and I have just had an amazing opportunity to be here and to teach in Goshen County. So to all of you that are retiring and to the board, just thank you. It's been a great opportunity.
We are all happy to have done everything that made your teaching experience more pleasurable and more fulfilling. Trust me. We hope we have a lot more to share in that regard. I'd like to ask Mr. Florshinger now to share some thoughts about Mr. Kinney and Mrs. Vasco.
All right. Thank you guys very much. We'll start with Kathy. One thing that Kathy's been for a lot of our staff and a lot of our students is a rock. I know Mrs. Meininger specifically, her day doesn't start out right unless she stops in and talks with Kathy. Every time that Kathy is gone, she's like, where's she at? How am I going to get my day started right when I can't talk to Kathy? Mm-hmm. So it's a huge impact that she has on staff and that relationship that she has with them, and especially with students too. Students peek their head in all the time just to say hi, just to see her, and they feel better. She's always been someone that has a funny story in a time that we need a funny story. And sometimes she's been a time when there's a funny story when we don't need a funny story. That's what I love about her. She's been a huge supporter of me, and I appreciate that from her, and she will be sorely missed in the district for sure. Mr. Kinney, a lot of words I could use to describe him and a lot of things I could probably say. I'm going to try to keep it short because I too, like Niana, may have to cut myself short before I start blubbering. Mr. Kinney's always been a guy who rides for the brand, is what I've always said. He rides for Goshen County, and he will do what you need him to do and what he feels is best for kids, no matter what the cost. And that's a true test of a man. He's a Goshen County employee, and he rides for that brand, and I love that about him. His leadership, since I've been there, has probably impacted me more than my leadership has impacted him. And that's another thing I love about him. He's taught me a lot about being a principal, and about things that I guess I never crossed my mind until I was able to sit across from him and just have a conversation. And he has a lot of wisdom that he shared with me. One thing that he shared with me that I will stick with, it will stick with me forever. He says, if you want to make everybody happy, sell ice cream. Don't be a school administrator. And, that's something that I stuck with me because, you have to make those tough decisions, and making a tough decision is better than making no decision at all. So that's one thing I really appreciate about Mr. Kinney, and he will be sorely missed in the district and especially at Trail. So I appreciate both of those individuals, and don't know how we will fill those voids, but we will get through, and I'll be jealous of them because they'll be retired and I'll still be working for another 20 years. Hopefully.
Yeah, it's sad that we have to work and then retire rather than getting that time when we're young and then work till we die. Mr. Kinney, I got to know through some community work, and then through GCEA, and then through his children. And I have always been so impressed by the work he does in the classroom and the work he does outside the classroom with the city council and all the capacities that he served everyone in Goshen County for so many years. So we thank you, and we'd love to hear your thoughts on exiting this life, so to speak.
I'm going to wait on exiting this life, but the metaphor that I'd like to use is the train's going to stop. And
I understand this is a tough time for all of us. So just take a minute and catch your breath and go ahead.
Well, I appreciate everything that has been said. The train is going to stop, and we're going to step off. Quietly. Yeah, I think I'll leave it at that for right now, because I'm going to have to stop my video if I don't. So, but I appreciate everything that's been said. It's been a lot of fun working for Mr. Florshinger. He's, I think, done an extremely good job, considering he was an elementary teacher and stepped right into being a principal. Mm-hmm. And I was impressed that he was willing to take that on. And after I got to know him a little bit and I knew how ADHD he was, I figured, yeah, this is going to work out okay. He'll be fine. But he has been one of the most fun principals I've had the opportunity to work with, because he is always working hard to make sure things get done well. and right. And I appreciated that a lot. And we didn't always agree on things, but we did have the conversations, which is always, sometimes they were hard, but most of the time we get a laugh about something. And so that has been a lot of fun. And I do have a couple of regrets. One is that I'm leaving, sort of. I've learned a lot with Canvas and things like that, but and I've had a lot of support from everybody. The other one is having a first-year superintendent here, and have been impressed with what we've seen so far. And that to me is a regret that I'm not going to get to watch from the inside how he does, because I think you guys chose well when you chose him, and I think he's the right man for the job. So thank you all very much for your kind words. I really appreciate it in Goshen County Schools for letting us work here this long, and it's been a lot of fun. We've grown a lot and seen a lot. But anyway, thank you all very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Kinney. And I'd just like to share one thought. I understand how really difficult this is to say goodbye to folks we've lived with and worked with for 20 and 30 and 40 years. It's a testament to our emotional investment in that task, this wonderful chance we have to live in the life of a child and a student. And I totally understand the emotion that everyone's experiencing this evening. So please don't feel embarrassment over that. It's a virtue. So I'd also like to end by noting that we are losing over 200 years of experience with these retirements, which is going to leave quite a big hole to fill. So thank you all for everything you've given. And I turned to Mr. Kramer and I said, watching you folks speak on Zoom tonight is a far more valuable experience than I've ever had with these retirement receptions. Because typically we get teachers in front of a group of adults and they just say, thank you, it's been great working here. We'll see you on the street corner, or whatever, in the barber shop or the coffee shop. But tonight we got to really hear from you and from your principals about deep thoughts and deeply held emotions about sharing this life that we have been in together. And I think that maybe we should do this on Zoom every year. Anyway, thank you all very much. And I do hope I see you lots more than I have while you've been in the classroom. So you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting or mute and go about your evening.
Thank you.
And I have one more comment because I can't not share this, but Mr. Gilchrist, had to text me in the middle and say, I've decided they can't retire, make an amendment. So I certainly need to share that. And I echo those same sentiments. It's unbelievable. In just a short time that I've been superintendent here at Goshen County, the people that are retiring this year and the value that they hold within the community and the district is amazing and will be completely missed. But we certainly expect them to be regular visitors because the impact that you have as retirees on our community is immeasurable. So thank you very much for participating in this way. I certainly would love to, as Niana had said, hugs and handshakes would be much more suited to this situation, but we so appreciate everything that you guys have done. And thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer and Mrs. Patrick.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Stuff. The next item on our agenda is an update on the salary relations process.
So you will notice when we get to new business in regards to approval of our preliminary budget, we do not have the salary information or benefits information within the budget, as we are still ongoing with that process. We met 2 times last week. We met again then on Monday And now we have scheduled another meeting for Thursday afternoon. And we hope to be completed with that process in a timely manner, but just wanted to identify where we're at in that process and actually how that affects an agenda item that's coming up.
And fingers crossed, we will be done by Thursday afternoon, but you can't rush the process, and it takes what it takes, and hopefully we'll have it wrapped up to everyone's satisfaction. The next item on our agenda is the public forum, and I understand that we have a speaker who would like to address us. Mrs. Hill, if you could unmute your microphone.
She's all set. I have her unmuted, so she's ready. to
Okay, go
I think
ahead.
I'm ready.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
Hi, thank you all so much for allowing me to speak tonight. And I just real quick want to tell Mr. Kinney, I will miss him as a teacher. He taught my children, and what a man. Basically, I'd just like to start out tonight by saying I am here in a new world, seeking closure for the young men and women of the class of 2020. These young people have done everything that you have asked for them to do for the past 12 years. They have pushed through for themselves, their parents, their teachers, coaches, and the board. Now, in the worst way, these young people deserve a graduation. They deserve closure so that they may embark on a new path that they have chosen. They have worked hard and should receive their diploma with their fellow peers. We would like to see them graduate on June 13th on the football field. The ugly truth is, traditional is now a dirty word. We as Blazers will not see the inside of a gymnasium packed full to recognize our youth. But why should we be holding out for that? We should be striving for new, inventive ways to show our youth, parents, staff, community, and ourselves that we care enough to get this done. No more making excuses. I myself am ready for a new way to do business. I am ready to create a new tradition, as is your class of 2020. Normal is a word that's in the past. I am begging you to do the right thing. We have seen our fellow Wyoming communities make such a thing happen, and they continue to make it happen. The class of 2020 is telling you. They are screaming for you to hear them for a graduation, to set it, mark it, make it happen June 13th. Ask of what you need from us parents. We are here. We will support you if that means staking out the football field. But we're asking you to let this happen, give our kids what they deserve, and stop letting that Rona dictate to all of us what's going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hill. And as with anybody else, if you want to stay and continue to view this meeting on Zoom, you're welcome to do so. You're also welcome to shut everything down and go home and relax. The next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Are there any items to poll before we get to that vote? I'm hearing nothing, so I will ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Jesperson. Is there a second?
Second.
And that was Mr. Saucedo. Thank you, Mr. Saucedo. Is there any discussion of the consent agenda? Okay, hearing no discussion, I would ask that those of you wishing to approve of the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. And any abstentions? That item was unanimously approved. We're on to new business with item A, considering the approval of offering of teaching contracts for the 2020-2021 school year. And these are contracts to Lindsay Maxey as a math teacher at THS, to Jessica Gersold as a special ed teacher at THS, to Jenna Kroll as a science teacher at TMS, and to Logan Barker as an as an elementary teacher at Lincoln. for the upcoming school year. Is there a motion to approve offering these contracts?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Clayton. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Jesperson. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'd ask those who wish to approve of offering these teaching contracts to signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? And that motion unanimously passed. Item B, we are considering the approval of the fiscal year 2021 preliminary budget as presented. Is there a motion to approve of that item?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Jesperson. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Bullington. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion.
Well, I have some questions.
Oh, okay.
Marcy,
Go ahead.
if Marcy's available, I have some questions.
I'm here, Mark.
Okay, so on it's page 52 in the packet, it'd be the first page of after the cover sheet for the budget. My question on this page is, I get the purpose of this report. Is it reason why we go all the way back to July of '98? Is it just like a historical thing?
The reason why we go back to 1998 is that there's reserves classified as pre-97 money.
Oh, okay.
And so that's the reason for that historical nature.
Okay.
The other item to note on here is that the budget presented to you this evening does not have any salary or benefits from salary relations, any compensation or benefits. So the current carryover is shown as 16.47%. That will need to be reduced because we can only carry over a max of 15%.
Okay. Well, that leads me kind of my next question then. In Mr. Kramer's presentation earlier, where that salary negotiation piece isn't in the preliminary budget. Have we historically had that information for this?
Oh, yes.
For the preliminary budget?
Yes.
So this is kind of different
Yes,
where,
yes,
okay.
yes.
We are required for a preliminary budget to be presented to the board by May 15th.
Right.
And so that's why I'm obligated to present this to you this evening. We will need, in particular because of insurance, we will need to have a special meeting upon salary relation convening for the board to decision what comes out of salary relations.
Okay. Okay, so my next question then, and I think part of this is going to be answered in stuff that's going to come up later in the agenda, because I had a visit with Mr. Kramer this afternoon. So if you look at what we budgeted and then what we're projected, you're looking at like a $1.1 million difference. Now, I know a lot of that's probably attributed to some things that have happened the last 2 months because we haven't been traveling as much and we haven't been doing this and we haven't been doing that. But I just wanted, Miss Cates's kind of opinion as to why we came out ahead and seemingly performed better than what we projected we were going to.
The two biggest things, Mark, have to do with the fact that we did not have students in the building from March 17th going forward. And in not having students in the building and not having a spring sports season, we had athletic expenses as well as transportation expenses that we did not incur. Our second largest difference is the special ed money that we received in January to the tune of $700,000 plus that we were not guaranteed.
Okay.
So that was not included in the budget.
Okay. So my next question then is, since we're projected to come out ahead, So what happens to individual buildings budgets, to individual teachers' budgets as we kind of get towards the end of the year and we haven't been able to expend all that, or they haven't been able to spend all their budget? What happens to that money? Is it still available to those buildings, to those teachers, to those programs, whatever it is? Or does it end up in a pool and we do something else with it?
Individual buildings historically have been allowed to carry over 15% of their budget, and buildings have never gone over that 15%. This year, because of the uniquenesses, they were allowed to carry over 25%. So that money goes back to the school, and that's the principal's discretion as to where that money is needed at the building level.
Okay.
And that's figured into that building budget line item.
Okay. I think I'll save my other questions as we get to those other agenda items, just because I think part of what I was wondering might come up and what we'll say about that. So I think I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Marcy, or Miss Kate.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
I think the biggest, and Mrs. Cates referenced it, but that January payment from special education in just over $700,000. I mean, there's no way to for the trustees to budget for that, because it's just as likely that might not have come, because in December we as administrators were planning for that to not be in existence. And so that's a very difficult strategy to be in, and challenging in a budgetary and looking forward. And it's difficult, and it makes you during this time question, well, boy, our estimation was off. And then the realization, when you're talking about $750,000, it's to estimate that into your revenues is next to impossible or foresee that.
I do have one more question, and I apologize for forgetting that I was going to ask this. And also, this is my third time sitting through a budget presentation. I don't know why I didn't think of this before, but Ms. Cates, is this like a set format that you have to use, or is it something that we've just used traditionally? And I ask this because, like, when I see budget, sometimes I see another column that's budget to actual. So when we're looking at what we budgeted 1920, and we're looking at our projected 1920, and then the next column then would be what that variance would be. Is that something that you've ever considered putting in this, or is it something that you just can't because it's a prescribed form? Or
there is not a prescribed form. I could alter this in any fashion, and I'd be more than happy to sit down with you. And if there's different information you'd like to see or additional information, I'd be more than happy to add that.
Well, and I'm just speaking for myself, surely not for my fellow trustees. That's one column I would like to see, probably, is that budget variance, or that variance to the budget to variance, or budget to actual, excuse me. But if that's something that not everybody wants, I'm surely not going to get hung up over it. It's just the way my head works. I like to see that variance also. Now, for me, that helps me see, kind of as we're looking at each line item, then where are we saving money, where maybe, it's just my OCD part of it.
Well,
great, you're entitled.
Mark, how about I get with you, because I'm going to be starting on the final budget, which is much more complex. If you think about that one, that's about 3 times as thick as this. That let me find a time to connect with you and see if there's additional items you'd like included in that one.
I mean, if no one's opposed to that, I'd be happy to. Okay, we can visit off. We'll look at our calendars, and that'll work for me. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion about the preliminary budget? Hearing none, I'd ask all of you who wish to approve of this preliminary budget as presented to signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? That item has been approved unanimously. Item C, we are considering the approval of contracting with McGee, Hearn and Pays LLP for district audit services. Is there a motion to approve of that contract?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Jesperson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Wagner. It's been moved and seconded to approve of contracting with our current firm for district audit service. Is there any discussion?
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
I
Go ahead.
apologize for
No?
taking up so much time this evening. So I've noticed that we're going up $1,500 each year for the next couple of years. Has that been kind of the standard, Ms. Cates? I can't remember from here. I apologize.
Actually, I went back and Mark, I looked at what they proposed to us last year, and I believe it's about $100 to $200 that they've increased this for each of these years, with that incremental increase of $1,500 that they're proposing there.
Okay.
But it's real close to what we paid the last 3 years.
Okay. And I mean, that's about looking at the percentage of the increase based on the numbers that were in this proposal. You know, that's what I'm seeing in my world when we outsource audit services for the bank. The internal audit department's in charge of kind of managing those relationships for the holding company, and we're seeing somewhere around 3% for increases like that in the last couple of years. So to me, this looks reasonable, and I wanted to kind of get Ms. Cates' take on it just to make sure I was thinking right too.
Sure.
And offer that bit of information as well. So thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, and we, for people's understanding, we're receiving auditors on site for 2.5 weeks. And historically, there are 3 auditors on site with an in-charge off-site. So they're working on site during that time, but then they're also going back and working in the office. That when I compare what we're getting to other districts, I feel like we're getting a very thorough audit.
Yeah, and I've been happy with the reports we get and the information that they give us, and especially when they sit down with us and kind of give the final results. I think it's been very adequate. You know, I think they do a good job as well.
I've always thought so too, but I don't have nearly the expertise in that field that you do.
Use that term loosely when you talk about it.
Any other conversation about approving this contract? Okay, hearing none, I'd ask all those who wish to approve of this contract to signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. And any abstentions? And item C has been approved unanimously. Item D, we are considering the approval of a purchase exceeding $5,000 for the purchase of staff computers. Is there a motion for
So
this?
moved.
Thank you, Trustee Jesperson. Is there a second on this item?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Trustee Miller. Any discussion about this item? Hearing none, I'd ask those of you who wish to approve of this purchase to signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? And item D has been approved unanimously. Item E, we are considering the approval of a purchase exceeding $5,000 for purchasing student computers. Is there a motion to approve of this purchase?
So moved.
Thank you, Trustee Wagner. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Jesperson. Is there any discussion about item E?
I think it needs to come out of Brian's salary.
Well, you know, he might have some conversation with you about that.
This agenda item and the previous really set us up for what it will look like going into next year, as this is allowing us to update computers that need updating, certainly, but also making sure that we will be one-to-one as we have device-wise in this situation, but really looking ahead at the fall and what that may or may not look like, and planning for how we can incorporate then what we've learned in our utilization of technology. Even if we do go back in a traditional sense, how can we utilize what we've learned over the last 2 months to really have education look a little bit differently than what it has in the past, you know? And as I was talking with Trustee Jesperson this afternoon, you know, my intention, as I've kind of shared, is the thought of not having a snow day ever again also when we get back into this is really reasonable to be thinking that there should not be a time in which we don't have access to students and an ability to provide them with our technology tools in the way that we've been instructing over the last couple of months to really demonstrate how we can meet many of our students' needs in different ways than we have. And our teachers, and I neglected to say this during the retirees, but it is amazing considering who thought 2 months ago we could have that type of activity on a Zoom and all of our teachers be so proficient in the use of that technology. And so the things that we have and have worked through over the last couple of months, and then this purchase allows us to move even further along those lines.
Excellent. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'd ask all those who wish to approve of this purchase to signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? And item E has been approved unanimously. Item F, we are considering approving the purchase of a 2020 Ford Expedition from Phil Longford of Denver. Is there a motion to approve this purchase?
So moved.
Thank you, Trustee Jesperson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Bullington. Is there any discussion?
Mrs. Cates, would you be able to explain and just touch upon what options we looked at regarding this vehicle and the decision to where that is being purchased from?
Sure. This vehicle is priced through BOCES co-op pricing, which means that BOCES has done the bidding for us. Donna Bott was able to reach out to BOCES, get the dealerships that had already priced, and then BOCES confirmed the pricing. This is a student-only MPV, meaning that it would not be used for staff travel, but it would be used for student purposes. And in doing so, it would be classified in that reimbursable transportation category.
So a couple of key points there is in regards to our transportation expenditures for this budget year, the idea to place that expenditure within this budget year, so it would be a reimbursable item that following year, because we have experienced a significant decline in our transportation expenditures because of our remote learning plan. And as we kind of progress to look at what that plan will be for Smart Start, as they're referring to, and that will be utilized to accommodate that. And as I use that new vocabulary of Smart Start, it is becoming interesting. That is what the Department of Education is referring to for our return to school in this fall. Is you'll hear a lot more of Smart Start, and incorporating these student vehicles will be a really big part of that.
Thank you for the explication, Superintendent Kramer. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'd ask those who wish to approve of this purchase to signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? And item F has passed unanimously. Item G, we are considering the approval of a purchase exceeding $5,000 for the purchase of district copy paper from Contract Paper Group. Is there a motion to approve this purchase?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Trustee Bullington. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Jesperson. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chairman,
Yes, Trustee Wagner.
I'm totally confused. When I look at this, I see on page 78 that there's $41,731 worth of paper. That looks like there's more paper there, twice as much.
Oh, okay.
And I don't understand what the 5% state of Wyoming preference means.
And Mrs. Cates, can you address?
Yep,
these?
I'd be happy to clarify that. What Contract Paper Group has done is they have provided an alternative option that is the $19,815.60. Because that's a recycled paper option, and that was not what was requested. And the other vendors were not given the opportunity to price that type of paper. So that first off is ignored. And the only thing being compared is the 840 cases at $26.09 for a total of $21,915.60. On my memo, what I'm doing is we're obligated to give a 5% in-state preference for state of Wyoming vendors. Contract Paper Group is not a state of Wyoming vendor. So for illustrative purposes, 5% is shown as being added in order to get Torrington Office and Contract Paper Group on an even playing field. What then happens is Contract Paper Group is still the low over Torrington Office when that 5% preference is figured in. However, we don't have to pay Contract Paper Group that additional 5%. We only pay them what they quoted at the $21,915.60. Does that make sense?
Doesn't make sense, but I understand what you're doing. The thing that really galls me is I've been in Torrington Office Supply when there's been a continual string of people coming in from our district wanting money and things from them to support our school. And so I'd just like us to consider how much they give back to the community.
And you don't have to approve my recommendation. My recommendation would have been different had the variance been much closer. But given that there is the size variance there, my recommendation is Contract Paper Group. You can deny that and award it to Torrington Office if that's your desire as a board.
All for the question.
I shall do so. All those wishing to approve of this purchase, please signify by saying aye.
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 We have 2 aye votes. All those opposed, same sign.
Aye. Aye.
And 1, 2, 3, just 4, 5. Carlos, did you vote on this
Yes,
option? And what was your vote?
mine was yes.
So I have 3 ayes,
Yes, that's correct.
3 ayes, and
And 5 yes.
we don't have Jeff. Okay, so that motion fails with 3 three votes in favor and 5 opposed. Trustee Wagner, would you like to?
I would move that we contract with Torrington Office Supply instead of paper.
Trustee Wagner has moved that we contract with Torrington Office Supply for this purchase. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
And Trustee Jesperson is seconded. Is there any discussion of that motion? Hearing none, I'd ask those who wish to approve of purchasing this 840 cases of copy paper from Torrington Office Products signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
And those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
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 Okay, so we have 5 votes in favor of Trustee Wagner's motion and 3 opposed. So that motion carries 5-3. Thank you, folks. Item H, we are considering the approval of a purchase exceeding $5,000 for the purchase of a grasshopper mower from Frontier Power, Outdoor Power. I believe they're in Cheyenne.
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve of this purchase?
So moved.
Thank you, Trustee Jesperson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Miller. Is there any discussion of this item?
Madam Chairman.
Trustee Wagner.
I think last year we purchased a grasshopper and a hustler both. Did we not?
I believe
How many
that's,
do we need?
I'll let Mrs. Cates address that as we've discussed this in regards to the budget for this year and where it's appearing. So go ahead.
Yeah, I'm happy to speak to that. And you are correct that in July, there was a grasshopper mower and a hustler purchased. The grasshopper was a replacement, and this grasshopper would be a replacement as well. They do experience significant wear with the summer mowing and the winter snow removal, and our grasshoppers were quite old. That this is allowing us to update our fleet. The hustler mower that is being recommended is also a replacement, and when we get to that, I'm happy to speak to it as well.
Marcia, do you happen to know the age of the vehicles or the mowers that we are replacing?
What we will have is with this grasshopper, this will allow our fleet to be no older than 2012. That we did have mowers that were, I want to say as old as maybe 2008 with quite a few hours on them.
Yeah,
and I don't know if maybe Lonnie can specifically speak to the one that would be replaced.
He isn't here at this time.
Oh, okay.
That's sufficient for answer. I just was wondering, since we purchased those last summer.
It's an excellent question. So I'm glad you asked, so we could actually include that. Very
So I want to follow up on that. So because ones we bought in July, then we're in this fiscal budget or this budget that we're talking about. So now we're buying another one essentially on the same budget year.
mm-hmm.
And I guess is it just because we have, we're under budget on some stuff and getting a deal on these, or, I mean, that's just, I guess that was my question that was coming up then, was essentially this would be typically a purchase that we would make at the start of a budget year, but because we're ahead of the game, we're going to go ahead and do it this year while we have it.
You're exactly right, Mark. This was anticipated to be part of next year's budget, but given our position and the fact that the funds were here, it appeared to make the most sense to purchase this now.
Okay. probably should have asked this back when we talked about the budget, but did we adjust our preliminary 2021 budget to reflect that? Or is it those numbers not material enough to really kind of mess with those numbers?
These purchases are included in the projection in the preliminary 2021 that you approved. Or you're talking the projected for 1920?
No, my question is, were these, because we typically make these purchases in July, or at least we did this last year. So knowing that, was this sort of purchase something that had been built into your 2020, 2021 budget?
These were not included in the 2021 that you approved. They were included in the projected 1920 portion of the budget.
I get what you're saying.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion on this item?
Madam Chair, I'd like to bring up kind of the same logic that Trustee Wagner just talked about in awarding the contract of this purchase to a dealer out of Cheyenne, where I believe last year we purchased from Rose Brothers. And once again, and Trustee Kramer spoke about this, and it's probably his first or second board meeting with us, of supporting our local businesses that definitely support our school district, and I know Rose Brothers do. Either way, I mean, it's about a 10% difference, but local service is definitely worth it at times. That's why I kind of wish that even that expedition could have come through Transwest, because they really do support our students. So, but I understand how that has to go through BOCES process. But anyway, but as far as this mower goes, I would just, using that same logic that Trustee Wagner did, I'd like to also maybe say that it would be beneficial to purchase locally.
And Trustee Christine Miller, would you like to reiterate the remark that you made about this that we discussed last July? Do you recall what I'm referring to?
Are you referring to that? Well, there are a couple of things that come to mind, but I definitely want to support local. Sometimes the variance is too much. And I feel like we need to keep our bidders honest and honor the system of the bid as well. And well, maybe that's it. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to, Catherine.
I'm sorry, Trustee Miller. One of the things that stuck with me from your remarks was you didn't want local folks to not make their best effort to give us their lowest bids in anticipation of us expressing a preference for local purchases.
That is correct. Yes, indeed. And I also don't want to lose bidders. I want businesses to take our request for a bid seriously, because if it's obvious every time we're going to go with the local bid, it does not honor the process of the bid process.
So we're kind of between a rock and a hard place. I mean, I have always supported giving our business to local folks, but Trustee Miller made some really good points that made me struggle with my preference. Okay, with that in mind, I'd like to hear those of you who wish to approve of a purchase of the grasshopper mower signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. No, I don't.
We have 4 ayes. And those who oppose approving this purchase, please signify by saying aye.
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 That's 3, and my vote also makes 4. So we have a tie, unfortunately.
I don't think that's how it works. No, I'm teasing you.
That's true. Okay, parliamentarian Trustee Miller, what do we do in this case?
the chair vote is supposed to break the tie, but when we have an even number,
Yeah.
I am uncertain.
Oh,
Robert's rules in front of me.
if I were not to vote, I mean, the chair is allowed to vote.
It is absolutely appropriate for the chair to vote. And you are on a school board situation, you are entitled to vote on every motion that is taken.
Right. But my vote made it a tie.
Mine did. Not yours.
You'd like to rescind your vote?
Yes.
You would like to alter your vote?
Yes.
Okay, and your vote was to oppose? Or to approve of this purchase?
Yeah, that was my first vote. Now I would like to vote.
You would like to change your vote?
Yes.
To, all right.
Trustee Miller, is it appropriate to, in that situation, I'm not familiar as much as you are, to then recast, to re-vote in that situation, to give the opportunity for a trustee to change their vote as opposed to individually, or how does that, or how would that be acceptable?
Since this is rules for small groups, we have some leeway there. I think we're okay if Rod wants to do it that way, or we could all just take another vote. Either way would be okay.
Okay, I would like to conduct another vote. All those, now this time I'm going to do a roll call if you'll indulge me. The vote is to approve the purchase of a grasshopper mower from Frontier Outdoor Power. So Trustee Bullington, are you approving this purchase at this time?
I approve.
Trustee Christine Miller.
Yes.
You approve?
I do, yes.
Trustee Clayton.
Oppose?
Trustee Zach Miller.
Oppose.
Trustee Saucedo.
I vote for.
Trustee Wagner.
Oppose.
And Trustee Jesperson.
Oppose.
Okay, so that is, and if I cast my vote, we would have 5-3 opposing this motion, and it fails. Would someone like to make a motion, Trustee Clayton, about purchasing a grasshopper mower from another vendor?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to make that motion. Approve the purchase from Rose Brothers for the grasshopper mower.
Is there a second for this motion?
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Jesperson. All those in favor of purchasing this mower from Rose Brothers, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And those opposed to this purchase, please signify by saying aye.
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 Is that 3 opposed?
Yes.
Okay, 5 in favor. I'm sorry, Trustee Saucedo, your light doesn't light up. You're so soft-spoken this evening that it's not showing us when you're speaking. So, all right, we have approved a motion to purchase the grasshopper mower from Rose Brothers Incorporated on a vote of 5-3. Item I, consider approval of a purchase exceeding $5,000 for a Hustler motor from Brown and Company. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Trustee Jesperson, thank you for your motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Miller. Is there any discussion of this item?
I hope this one is easy for us to agree on.
I do too.
So all these purchases we're doing, kind of the same story. We normally do this in July, but we're doing it now because of our fiscal situation.
Correct.
Okay. I should have asked that first. I apologize.
That's quite all right. Any other discussion? All those in favor of purchasing this Hustler mower, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those, same sign. Any abstentions? And this item was unanimously approved. Item J, we are considering approval of a purchase exceeding $5,000 for the purchase of a deep tine aerator. Is there a motion to approve this purchase?
So moved.
Thank you, Trustee Jesperson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Clayton. Any discussion?
May I comment?
Please do.
I believe the situation with this is a little bit unique comparatively to the previous agenda items that we spoke of. This is something that we have regularly done within the district, and the cost of a yearly work and contracted work, actually in comparison to the total cost of this unit, which will work with one of our machines, actually makes for a cost savings for us. And I'll ask Mrs. Cates again, in the years in which we have this, if I remember correctly, we will have paid for this in how many years in relation to what we have currently expended for contracting this service?
We will have received our savings in the first year of operation. And with doing it this way, we won't be under someone else's schedule to come in and perform the tasks, as well as being able to perform this multiple times if so needed.
And coming from a district that actually was not able to even purchase that service, and what that actually allows the ground to do by doing that is significant. And so I know it is a significant cost, but the service is extremely significant and necessary to maintain our fields in proper order. Otherwise, you get into a situation where you're having to have significant repair work if this isn't done annually.
Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'd ask all those who would like to vote to approve of this purchase signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? And that item has been unanimously approved. Item K, we're considering approving a contract with Long Mechanical Solutions for the purchase and installation of a rooftop unit at Southeast Schools. Is there a motion to approve of this contract?
So moved.
Thank you, Trustee Jesperson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Wagner. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair, if I would be able to address this. A month ago and necessitated replacement, we were fortunate enough to not be in session where it was not an immediate need, but it certainly is needed to move forward, because that unit was not able to be repaired as I understood it. Mrs. Cates, if you're able to add anything to that, feel free.
Yes, Mr. Kramer, you're exactly correct. What we have here, because of Long's operating our controls, it's necessary for us to contract with them for the install. In order to have multiple prices, Long's priced the cost of the equipment, as did O'Connor Company. Long's was less, so I'm asking for approval to purchase the unit, the equipment from Long Mechanical Solutions, as well as contract with them for the install. And that's the total of the $25,980.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, I ask those wishing to approve of contracting with Long Mechanical to signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? And item K has been unanimously approved. Item L, we are considering the approval of a contract with AAA Stucco for stucco repair at Lincoln Elementary. Is there a motion to approve of this contract?
So moved.
Thank you, Trustee Bullington. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Saucedo. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair, I'd just like to address this.
Certainly.
This is a situation in which we had, I believe, a woodpecker, as Mrs. Gates referred to me, at Lincoln, and caused some significant damage at Lincoln Elementary, unfortunately. Fortunately, we have the AAA Stucco doing some work in Lingle, and because of that work, being in the area, we're able to provide us with a very reasonable repair estimate for performing this service, and we're very appreciative of that, as if this was standing alone without that additional work already being up here, that repair would have been significantly higher. So fortunate that way, and definitely need to make sure we're watching and maybe putting up some, I don't know, owls, if we could put that up, if that keeps the woodpeckers off, or what we need to do.
I don't know.
That was gonna be my next question. What are we gonna do to mitigate this circumstance?
Yes, to discourage the woodpeckers from feasting on the building.
And I think maintenance has been working on that to try to figure out exactly, once that repaired, then how do we keep them off?
Yeah. Okay. Any questions or discussion? All those who wish to approve this contract, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? And item K was unanimously approved. Item L, we are considering the approval of contracted. Oh, I'm sorry. We did that already. Sorry. We're on to topics for discussion. And at this point, I'd like to alter the agenda just a little bit without pre-approval and call on our student representatives for comments or contributions as they see fit. Representative Peterson, could I ask you to start us out?
Hi, yeah. It's good to be back here. I guess the main concern about most things was just about the prom, and I know a lot of parents have expressed concern for graduation and how the end of the year was going to take place. I didn't know if you guys had any recent information on that or any updates regarding that. Other than that, I think that's mainly the students' concern. So.
Okay, thank you, Representative Peterson. Representative Glass, same concerns? Anything new, different?
Yeah, the same concerns. Also, I know the Goshen County has struggled a little bit with the Canvas page not working occasionally, and I know it's good that the district is coming to a close, at least for student-wise, so that should not be much more of a problem this year, but I know that if we were to go completely online next year, I would wonder if there would be anything done to try and help our Canvas situation. I know it's happened at least 2 times, at least where I'm at, so that has not been very helpful in trying to get all my work done. But in addition to what Claire said, I think that the students are just excited to be getting done with their classes and getting into summer.
True. Representative Fritzler.
Hi. Yeah, I probably would have the same concerns as about prom and graduation. I've heard a lot of frustrations about not knowing what's happening and not knowing a specific date and just keep on waiting. But other than that, I think everything's going good.
Okay, thank you, ladies. Mr. Kramer, would you like to address some of those remarks?
Absolutely. I appreciate them bringing those up too, because it gives me an opportunity to speak to those. Graduation, I'll have a little bit more specifics actually during my superintendent's report. So I'll kind of curtail that until that time, but I do have some specific updates regarding that. Canvas, that I appreciate Student Representative Glass bringing that up, because that was a significant challenge last week, as it was for instructors, and everyone within the county probably was fully aware of the challenges of internet service that we were having.
Oh,
So
okay.
the challenge with Canvas is that it is actually hosted on our servers. And so as Brian and I have been discussing, we have plans, and actually he had already had plans, I think even before the struggles that we had last week, that this is actually going to be moving to the cloud like we do have Office 365. And so next year we will have that in place. And so if you're able to have internet service wherever you may be at next year, because I know with our remote learning that has had an opportunity for those students to not necessarily have to stay in Goshen County to have their remote learning completed, but or wherever they might have a different company providing internet service, that if they are up in internet, Canvas will be available irregardless of if we are down at the central office. And so that will be a nice fix to that. And that will be addressed during that situation. So yes, we have noticed that an extremely, that has been a frustrating situation. And it's very interesting too, because it really allows for us to kind of monitor when students are working, and the knowledge of not having necessarily, students definitely are not working from our 8 to 4 typically day. They are working well outside of that, as our teachers. And when we even have it down in the late evenings, that affects specifically what we've had with students. And I would tell students too, if we experience those problems over the next 2 weeks, making sure that you are contacting your teachers with an email, letting them know of that situation, because I can speak from the parental standpoint that's what I had to encourage my son to do. Is teachers are knowledgeable that those things happen. Preferably wouldn't have waited until the deadline to perform that, but it would be nice to actually then inform the teacher, this is why this is not going to be done. And the teachers have been fantastic, as I've understood it, and completely understand that situation, and usually extend a deadline in that situation. And then regarding prom, it is still something that we're looking at, unfortunately, as we continue to see what the future looks like, and this will also affect graduation. The likelihood of being able to have even a prom in which we're able to even social distance appropriately, it doesn't seem extremely likely. I would hope that as some of our guidelines are lifted or changed, that there still would be the possibility of that, as I would love to see a prom activity happen in Goshen County, and we're still open to that and haven't eliminated that. But our first priority right now is to look at graduation and how we can have that, hopefully, and as I'll kind of further discuss, is on June 13th, having that celebration opportunity for students, or for seniors.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. And student reps, did anything come to mind during Superintendent Kramer's remarks that you'd like to chime in with?
Yeah, could I add one more thing about Canvas?
Absolutely.
So like after doing this, I've been thinking about like going back to school in the fall. And I think it would be really good to see, since like the teachers have kind of mastered this whole Canvas thing, is maybe like continuing with having everything on it still while being at school, because it'll make it easier to like work from home and still have everything online. I just think that would be really good to see next year if we do go back.
Thank you for your insights. Board members, do you have anything that you'd like to bring up that has not come up in the agenda?
I have one thing, and apparently I've decided it's my night to talk about it.
That's all right.
I was approached in the last couple of weeks with some concerns about how we accepted the resignations of some staff last meeting, and then part of this is that I was attending via Zoom, so I might have missed this discussion. And I'm not saying that we did anything wrong or out of line or anything, but the concern was how we replace those positions, or what the plan is for those. And so my thought was, as we get those resignations, if we can, if at all possible, if there can be some discussion about what the plan is for going forward, if we're going to replace those individuals, if we're going to try to supplement it with something else, or if we're just not going to replace them at all, so that at least then when trustees are approached on the street or via text message about how things are being done, that we're, because this individual had more knowledge about what was happening with a particular position than I did. And I just kind of felt caught off guard a little bit. Like maybe it was something I should have had a little bit of background information on. So, and I'm not saying we did anything wrong. I just think maybe we should get into a better practice of having that discussion when we're presented with those resignations, at least what the preliminary plan is, if there is. And I discussed this with Mr. Kramer earlier. Sometimes that's not possible just because of the timing, and I understand that. I just think it needs to be something that needs to be on our minds when we start talking about that stuff.
Thank you, sir. That's a good insight. Yeah, we definitely should be talking about what will occur following those resignations when we're able.
Good suggestion.
Yeah.
Just related to that comment, well, I agree it's nice to have the information. I do believe that it's our prerogative as a board to, more set policy, budget, etc., and allow the superintendent to work within that. So I wouldn't want that discussion, so that we're prepared to respond to public comment, to necessarily impact the ability for the superintendent to make the decisions needed in order to move teachers around, those types of things within the district.
Thank you, Trustee Miller.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Trustee Saucedo.
I was just wondering if we could get a little bit of an update as far as like dates and what summer school is going to look like.
Okay, and Superintendent Kramer's indicated he'll include that in his report.
I do.
Go ahead.
I just had one other comment and or question. Following our, I believe it was our September board meeting. Well, at that board meeting, we had some discussion around changing our Power School subscription to allow for online registration of students. I just wanted to know if there's been any further progress to that, knowing that we'll have to take some steps in place to make that happen prior to next year.
I believe, and I may be forgetting the month, but I think the board trustees approved that purchase in February, I believe. It was February or March meeting that was approved, and we are 100% ready to go for August and full online registration capability.
Excellent, thank you. I apologize that I missed that.
No, that's okay. It's great to promote that more. So I appreciate you bringing it up.
Madam Chair, is it okay if I ask one more thing?
Oh, certainly, Representative Glass. Feel free.
Well, I know I've been wondering as a junior if there has been any decisions regarding ACT. I know I talked to my principal a little bit, and he said there had been thought about providing vouchers and just allowing students to do it on their own time, or maybe even potentially having a later date in this next school year. I just wondered if there was a decision on ACT.
And I actually, let me see, I was just seeing on our screen if any of our, Mr. Epler.
That if you like.
Oh, yes, please. Thank you.
So we have been given several opportunities for kids to take it again. One is in June. One was in, I want to say August, and another was October for our kids to retake that assessment or to take that assessment. And working with the counselors, we opted for the October dates because we didn't know if we would be able to have kids in the building in June, obviously. And we knew coming right back from summer that August would be too difficult. And so working with the counselors, we opted for October with the Wyoming Department of Ed.
Because we're in.
Thank you, Mrs. Fields.
Did that help, Representative Glass? That satisfies? Okay. Any other questions, remarks, concerns, topics we need to address?
I've got a question, probably pretty much for Superintendent Kramer. I know we just discussed in your remarks that district graduation is targeted for June 13th. Of course, I don't know exactly where we are, what your discussions with officials have been. What does that graduation look like? Is that field, parking lot? What are you thinking there?
I actually have it in my superintendent's report on there. So that's my plan to kind of curtail, to have that discussion there and hopefully have some specific details that might aid in answering those questions. So thank you.
So it was very frustrating to be in that position. All right, I am going to move on to item F, future meetings. Our next regular board meeting will be Tuesday, June 10th at 7 p.m. And we don't know yet if it's going to be a Zoom meeting or if we're going to meet in person. And we will now turn to Superintendent Kramer and his much anticipated report.
Yeah, I'm pretty popular this evening and had a lot of agenda items also. What I'll start off with is the update on COVID-19 school closures and online learning. And this is definitely reflective of the summer school aspect too. As I've kind of shared with on the last couple of weeks on the radio also, is I really don't envision us stopping May 26th. For many of our students, we will cease remote learning on our original end date of May 26th. For many of our students who are either struggled with some of the components of the remote learning, are doing better one-on-one or would do better in a small group, that instruction will have the option for extended school year services into the month of June. That will be for our highest need students that we see and identified, because we don't want to get into a situation where we are not really providing a safety net for students in here. We also want to make sure that we're doing in a face-to-face manner that is in line with what we feel is most safe for students and then also educationally viable. But we do believe in June that we will have a strong presence of educational opportunities for many of our students and what that will look like. Then July, it is our intention to have a session for summer school that looks like our more traditional summer school. Traditional in the sense that it would be mainly curtailed to students that aren't necessarily in that highest risk population, which we will also still continue to serve through July, but might be those students that have registered as incompletes during this time, or there might be other extenuating circumstances where they're in credit recovery. And so we'll be offering those in two different, an AM and a PM. Now that may change based on what we feel we're able to really implement, because as we're finding, there are very significant difficulties with the number of students that we're able to have, the disinfecting of those locations, and all those challenges. But it is our intention to have that type of summer school in July. Then in August, we would be again looking at our highest risk population, students that need that leg up going into August, that might have that next step to help them get prepared for what the fall might look like. And if you've been reading any articles too on what that fall might look like, those are the types of things that are keeping me up at night, and how to prepare for that. Because the most recent one that I have seen actually was from the School Board Association in Missouri. And there was well over 30 pages of documents and suggestions, well over multiple hundreds of suggestions on how schools might implement certain things in the fall for return. And it is an extremely daunting task, as we've started that process in our administrative meetings and planning for that and what it potentially will look like this fall upon our return. And I think there's ways that we can mesh some of the things that we've done over these last 2 months and then also improve. One of those pieces being Canvas, as Representative Fritzler talked about was that it will be the expectation that actually K through 12, we are utilizing Canvas. And actually that'll be continuation, especially 6 through 12, to really continue that implementation and that option, because we really don't, we have the gamut of where we have students absolutely needing that face-to-face commitment from teachers, to also that gamut of students who are excelling in this environment. And so that is going to be that balance of how can we meet that needs of that whole frame of students, and whether it be summer school, because I know I speak from experience too at home. I've seen the gamut on what has been successful as a parent, what has not, and how we incorporate those things. But I also want to just commend our teachers. It was Teacher Appreciation Week last week, and they are working so incredibly hard at trying to learn this process and take from it what we can to improve education. Because we know, quite honestly, what we've done in March and April and May of this year, we need to actually raise our expectations significantly going into the fall if we're still in this same delivery method, because we know we tried to maintain, we tried to really introduce something that was thinking about social emotional learning and trying to work with families and find that happy medium of new information and already learned information. But we know we can't do that going forward because of the importance of really having our kids challenge educationally and be able to have an outcome of where they're actually prepared for what challenges they will need to meet at that next level. And so it'll look very similar in some ways, and it'll look dramatically different in others. But again, I can't commend our teachers and administrators enough for the job that they have done regarding that. I know Mr. Trustee Saucedo, I noticed that you maybe have some comment to make on that.
Just regarding the extended school year, just wondering how our teacher situation is and how it's going to be determined who's going to be covering that extension.
Currently, for the summer school component that is in July, we're operating under the same pieces and practices that we have, with administration being approved for that, and then teachers being approved also for that task, and those working with Mr. Plendel and Mrs. Sims in working that. Now, on the extended school year, those will be teachers that actually will be at an hourly rate, and actually our administrators were given some guidance in our administrative meeting today in looking at which students that we would be able to serve, how those would be extended. Many of these expenditures that we're also looking at is actually what we would have in our CARES Act money that we're anticipating, and how we can kind of balance that with what we have as our needs. Primarily right now, currently our system has been one-to-one instruction, and we're doing some at multiple schools. And due to a recent confirmed case in the county, over the next week, we've kind of slowed down from approving those individuals, just so we can make sure that that exposure doesn't exacerbate a problem from a county health perspective. And so we wanted to be very careful in approving any new individual ones this week and possibly next week. But as we progressed last week and future, we hope to increase that amount of teachers, and then post May 26th also, in how we're going to have teachers be contacted through their administrators and their teachers to make sure that we have that properly staffed. I'll move on then from the summer school update on COVID to the Department of Education approval of the alternative high school. We got word that that was approved. And so we are moving forward with some of the specific questions on how we will have students registered for that program next fall. The ironic thing is that many of those same components that are part of that alternative school may be some of the same components we will be introducing to our general education in the high school programs as well. And so as we progress there may be a meshing of that that we'd not anticipated because of our return plan, and as they're referring to our smart start for next year. But they're very exciting news in regards to the approval and moving forward in a much needed program for our county to serve our students in a way that is as unique and as original as they are. Then I would update, I'm gonna hopefully be able to quickly share the screen here. And our update on the sharing, or the staff, excuse me, on where we had recent openings and how we have filled those. Currently, the only one that we have highlighted that is yet to be filled is the school nurse for Lincoln and Trail, and I know they are doing interviews this week on that opening. So we would expect to have that position filled, and based on the number of things that we had available and where we're at now, it is appreciated that we're so far along in replacing those positions and starting to be prepared for that next school year. And that may look quite dramatically different in regards to staffing also for next year, with the anticipation of CARES dollars and how we choose to utilize those funds. And I misspoke, we also do have the halftime occupational therapist available also in that position. Okay. And then I want to direct everybody's attention also to the page 101, if you'd like to take a look at that, the supplemental student accident insurance for 2021. That is actually something that we have done for many years. It is not an expense to the district, but it's an option for families, and our continued work with K&K Insurance, which is formerly known as United Healthcare. And WEPT has served as the agent, and we plan to continue with them for school year 2021. And now the most recent update on graduation. We were scheduled to have a meeting this afternoon, which we were able to have, but unfortunately, County Health had a situation in which they were unable to participate. So we weren't able to set our plans in hard concrete as we'd like, but we do have a rough sketch of what it will look like, and it will be unique at each individual school, just as our normal graduation services are unique from Lingle, Torrington, and Yoder. But what they will all take place is on each individual school's football field, where graduates will be placed in the grandstand, appropriately social distanced. They will actually be gathered at a location off that, and they will be a traditional, or I don't know if it'd be traditional, but an entrance as I view it, of graduates into the location, as I feel that's an extremely memorable opportunity. And that will be a little different, of course, because social distancing will be incorporated in that. But as they're seated, the audience members from parents and things, and depending upon one of the questions that we have yet to be asked from County Health is the number of people we will be able to have in attendance. We will have those individuals placed on the football field, and again, in squares, appropriately social distanced from the other areas. And then the stage will be in between the grandstands and the football field. And so as the graduates will come, they will go across the stage and be awarded their diploma, and we will have them walk across. The important components to be yet answered are our sound systems and how we incorporate that. We will also have broadcasting because we know we will have to limit attendance, and so there will be some as a number of our community members or staff members who will be unable to attend will still be able to participate through the broadcast, and we plan to utilize the Wyoming High School Athletic Association broadcast. We also plan in that situation to have the speeches, the welcome, the valedictorian, salutatorian, and presentation of the class pre-recorded, and have that already set up. And we will have those graduates stand as theirs is played over the sound system, so they don't have to make movements down to the stage and back up and try to be able to figure out how to possibly social distance appropriately in that situation. And then for any acknowledgements, we also have them stand. They will not go across the stage multiple times. They will only be one time where they'll be awarded either awards or any identification of salutatorian or valedictorian as they cross to receive their diploma. And we will also then have to, because it is an outdoor situation, look at times, which makes this a little bit more unique because of the weather that we would be dealing with. We have decided to move those times up specifically in the day. So THS would have an 8 a.m. graduation. Lingle would have a 10 a.m. graduation, and Southeast would have a 12 a.m. graduation. The reason for that is we're trying to avoid the possibility of thunderstorms. We will then, that day before, or the couple of days, we anticipate, hopefully the Wednesday before, to know as to whether we would have to come up with an alternative plan to that. And we've thrown out some ideas, but certainly not prepared to share those at this time in regards to if we knew the forecast for that Saturday where it was 80% chance of rain, we would have to incorporate some other options, which we have discussed and opportunities for doing so and how that might look. But so that is a rough outline. We plan to have further conversations with our county health partners to make sure that we're following recommendations and things that they have set out. That is our rough draft. As many things could change on that because of their recommendations, and we want to follow those safety guidelines as much as possible. It is our anticipation to be able to specifically share as much detail as we possibly can by next week. But we want to make sure and have the opportunity to share that in this capacity, so those watching and those desiring a movement forward will have the knowledge that this is our plan going forward. One piece I'd like to note too is we have already worked with a local photographer to take those very anticipated photos of students going across the stage and would be providing those to the graduates. And we really appreciate that opportunity, so those families wouldn't have to necessarily move from their spot to take those all important family photos that we really want to have and cherish, but we want to provide those in a way that can be safe. And so we already have that plan, and we already have contacted that photographer who's agreed to do that for us.
How would Chairman be handing the certificates out?
The plan is kind of still on a draft on that and how we do that. What the piece is too is that we are prepared, and it may need to what we'd like in regards to a possible plan for trustees is we're looking at the possibility of having 2 trustees because of the social distancing piece at each graduation as opposed to more than 2. But that may be further guided upon from county health and how we can provide that. So, but we'll have more information forthcoming. But I appreciated the administrators' work on this. I appreciate the parents who have contacted me and had excellent conversations about that and giving quality feedback, and also been very understanding and very great to work with in regards to this. And I anticipate that same collaboration as we move forward in this process, as this is new to us all and we're kind of changing. And, you know, if you had asked me 3 weeks ago, or even possibly 4 weeks ago, I would have hopefully still anticipated the opportunity to have a traditional sense. But I think those parents who have spoken to me recently and offered their feedback, I'm in 100% agreement. The likelihood of even being able to have a traditional opportunity for graduation even in August is looking less and less likely. So with that in mind, what can we do for graduates to really have that culminating event for them? And in turn too, what can we do to provide that opportunity that also creates some unique things, as it was put to me from a parent. Their whole spring has been unique. Why not actually continue that into their graduation ceremony? So that's a pretty good what new traditions we can start with this.
True.
Lincoln's senior pictures on Rose Brothers fence is pretty unique.
It's very nice, isn't it?
Just you need to be able to slow down and look at it.
No kidding.
So that's what we have moving forward, and much more information to follow from our principals, and we will have a district outline for that first, and then there'll be much more details provided through individual buildings and how that will work. We also, one thing I do want to that is still, we do not plan to have any live musical performances, but we are still playing with some ideas and may come up with some different alternatives to that, but there is no anticipation of having live performances in any of those graduation ceremonies.
Is that it for you?
That is it for me.
Thank you so much for that extensive.
Long-winded.
No, not long-winded, just extensive, detailed report. Is there any other business to come before the board this evening? Hearing none, I declare us adjourned at 8:58. Thank you for participating.